He's back to pass. Pressure coming. He's going to get hit in the end zone. That's going to be a safety.
It's now time for Gridiron State of the Union.
Another touchdown, Porter Ridge, and they've gone up. The score is 23-17.
Presented by DMR Reconstruction, North Carolina's leader in quality insurance restoration services. With crews on standby 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. DMR Reconstruction has your restoration needs covered. Give them a call at 704-327-4028.
He's going to hand it off to Byram. Byram on the right-hand side. He's going to be into the end zone. Touchdown, Monroe.
Gridiron State of the Union is your insider's look each week into Union County High School football.
Malcolm fires one off, and it's into the end zone. Touchdown, Piedmont.
Now we head into the DMR Reconstruction Studio and your host, Brian Stevenson.
Conference races are heating up. Cuthbertson is on a hot streak. Will anyone beat Mount Pleasant? And what has happened to the Sun Valley offense? Those are all questions that will hopefully be answered tonight on the Halloween week edition of Gridiron State of the Union. Hello everyone, Brian Stevenson here. Last week, Marvin Ridge got their second win of the season. Also, Forest Hills, Cuthbertson, and Monroe all got victories. This is a crucial week for several teams vying for conference championships. So let's check out all of the action as we normally do in our trip around Union. And we start off tonight with the WIXC Game of the Week and Shane Green.
The WIXC Game of the Week features Mount Pleasant at Parkwood. Parkwood lost their second game in a row last week at Monroe, 35-14. The Rebels are now 5-4 overall and dropped to 1-2 in the Rocky River Conference. Even though they've got 2 losses in conference, they could help determine the champion if they can knock off Mount Pleasant Friday night. The Tigers have not lost a conference game and are poised to be the first team outside of Union County to win the Rocky River Conference. If the Rebels pull off the rough edge upset, they could open up the door for other Union County teams to get a share of the conference crown. Find out if the Rebels can take care of business when you tune in to our Game of the Week right here on the Mighty 1190 Friday night. Now to Game 2 of our doubleheader and Reed Alexander.
Piedmont at Weddington is Game 2 of our WIXC doubleheader. It features the Panthers coming off a loss last week at the hands of Marvin Ridge, 34-28. The Panthers are now 4-5 overall and 1-2 in the conference. The Weddington Warriors are coming off a big win, shutting out their rival, Sun Valley, 34-0. It was the first time they defeated Sun Valley in 8 games. But more importantly, it keeps Weddington only 1 game out of first place in the Southern Carolina Conference. Find out who comes out on top when you tune in to game number 2 of our WIXC doubleheader Friday night. Now, let's go to Ken Ogden.
The Sun Valley Spartans are on a 2-game losing streak. Last week, they were shut out by Weddington. The Spartans have not won a home game all year, but are a perfect 5-0 on the road. That may be a good omen for Sun Valley, as they make the short drive to Cuthbertson on Friday night. The Cavaliers will be tough, though. They're on a 5-game win streak. Last week, they beat Anson 35-19. A win would clinch at least a tie for the Southern Carolina Conference title. Next up, East Meck at Porter Ridge. The Pirates are hoping to bounce back from being shut out by Butler last week. The Bulldogs won 55-0. The only win this season for the Pirates came against Garringer. East Meck only has 2 wins on the season. The Pirates hope to equal that total by defending the Boneyard on Friday night. Now let's go to Derek Skinner.
Coach Brad Hoover said when his team finally got a win to look out. He was right. After losing the first 6 games, Marvin Ridge has won 2 straight. They go for win number 3 against Anson on Friday night. If the Mavericks win their final 2 games, they could still make the playoffs. Next up, Union Academy at Albemarle. Last week, the Cardinals beat Chatham Central 62-8. It was the second straight win for Union Academy. They are currently tied for 3rd in the Yadkin Valley Conference. A win would bring Union Academy back to 500 and move them up to 2nd place in the conference. Going to Albemarle and getting a win, though, will be a tall order. The Bulldogs usually have one of the top programs in the state. That's the report on the Cardinals. Now let's go to Chris Rogers.
Central Academy travels to Forest Hills this week for a Rocky River Conference matchup. Last week, the Cougars fell to Mount Pleasant 42-28. The Cougars have looked much improved this season, but the Tigers proved to be just a little bit tougher to tame. Their opponent this Friday night, the Forest Hills Yellow Jackets, coming off a 33-7 win at West Stanley. The Jackets are still in contention for at least a share of the conference title if they can win out, and if Mount Pleasant has a loss this Friday night. Their defense has become very stingy lately, only giving up 21 points in the past 2 weeks. Next up, the Monroe Redhawks improving to 2-1 in the conference last week by defeating Parkwood 36-15. The Redhawks are just like Forest Hills. They need to win out and count on a Mount Pleasant loss to gain a share of the conference championship. Look for Coach Johnny Sowell to have Monroe ready for the Colts this Friday night in Monroe. Now let's head back to the studio and Brian Stevenson.
Thanks a lot, Chris. Time for our first break on Gridiron State of the Union. But when we return, it's our roundtable segment with Reed Alexander, and later in the show, the coach of the Cuthbertson Cavaliers, David Johnson. We'll be right back after this.
Darkness falls across the land.
Thank you for tuning in and listening to the Gridiron State of the Union, brought to you exclusively by DMR Reconstruction. Fire, water, wind, or mold damage, they are your go-to source. And if you're thinking about remodeling, from the tip top of the roof to the bottom of the foundation, they can handle it for you. Windows, doors, paint, floors, vinyl siding, they do it all at DMR Reconstruction. Stop by and visit their showroom on Highway 74 in Marshville, North Carolina. You'll be glad you did. 704-327-4028, 327-4028, and they hope you're enjoying the Gridiron State of the Union, brought to you by DMR Reconstruction.
He did the mash. He did the monster mash. The monster mash.
Welcome back to Gridiron State of the Union. Time now for our roundtable segment, and I'm joined by Reed Alexander. And Reed, we've got a lot of big games this week, conference championship implications, but one of the biggest is Parkwood and Mount Pleasant. You saw Parkwood last week. They're really one of the last shots to keep a Cabarrus County team from becoming conference champions of the Rocky River for the first time.
Yeah, Mount Pleasant's been playing really well. I think they surprised everybody when they beat Monroe. And that tells me a lot. The fact that they, kept Monroe in check and Monroe kept Parkwood in check, I think it's going to be tough for Parkwood to take down Mount Pleasant. But I will say we've seen Parkwood play, and they've had their moments where you've been like, wow, Parkwood is really turning it on. Last week against Monroe, they played Monroe really close in the beginning, and then Monroe got a defensive touchdown, really knocked the wind out of their sails, and then Monroe went up on them and kind of took control of the game. If Parkwood can maintain intensity and definitely their defense kept Monroe's running backs in check. If they could do the same to Mount Pleasant, this game might be closer than people think.
Well, and especially being down in Rough Edge, hopefully the home crowd, those rowdies down there in Rough Edge can keep the team in it, and that would be good. And they can play – they're out of the conference championship race, but now they can play spoiler and help keep the championship at least partially here in Union County. Moving on to some other teams, we have talked about this one. Who would have thought it? Marvin Ridge, 2 in a row, and just a great job of getting these guys believing by Coach Brad Hoover.
I think we talked about this before, but we both thought they were done. I mean, we thought maybe Marvin Ridge was going to have a losing season completely. I mean, a winless season. But here they go, win 2 in a row against teams that we bet against on. I mean, these weren't give-me games. These were pretty big games that Marvin Ridge surprised people by winning.
Coach Hoover told me a few weeks ago before that first win, he said, we've been so close, and if we get one, look out, we're going to start rolling. And he was right. He's on the money. I think they've got a good chance of winning this week as well. So big stuff there for Marvin Ridge. Finally, the team that's really the hottest in Union County right now, Cuthbertson, 5 in a row. They've got a tough one against the Sun Valley team. If they can win this one, they've got a chance of just outright winning the Rocky River. Or, Southern Carolina.
Right. I think they can easily beat Sun Valley if they're able to keep Albert Funderburg Jr. in check. And by in check, I mean less than 3 touchdowns and maybe just over 100 yards rushing. I mean, their offense relies so much on Albert Funderburg that he usually gets, 3+ touchdowns, runs over, a few games ago he broke the Union County rushing record for single rushing yards in a game. So if they're able to just maintain him, make him an average night, give him an average night, I think they might be able to surprise and beat Sun Valley. But their offense and their passing game has improved through the season for Sun Valley. We've seen them play a couple of times. So that's another thing, their secondary.
but I think the key is Albert Funderburk.
Yeah, it really is. They've shut him down 2 straight weeks. Obviously, teams have picked up on something on film. Let's see if the Road Warriors can be just that. Sun Valley has not lost on the road. Cuthbertson's won 5 in a row. Something's got to give, and we'll look forward to hearing the results of that on Friday night. Reed Alexander joining us tonight for our roundtable segment. And when we come back, we'll talk to the coach of the hottest team in Union County, David Johnson, about those Cuthbertson Cavaliers right after this on Gridiron State of the Union.
Hey, we'll be back to more Gridiron State of the Union in just a moment, but in the meantime, every person wants to be part of a winning team, and I want to tell you about the winning team over at DMR Reconstruction. Now, if you have fire, water, wind, or mold damage to your home, they can help you. They'll help you deal with the insurance company. They'll make it look better than it did before the accident ever happened. But did you know that they also do all kinds of home improvement? They're licensed general contractors. You thinking about new kitchen cabinets, new floors, new countertops? Maybe you need a new door. Maybe you need to paint or new vinyl siding, refinishing floors, installing carpet. They do it all at DMR Reconstruction, and they are your winning team. 704-327-4028, 327-4028, or visit the brand new showroom, Highway 74 in Marshville. It's DMR Reconstruction, exclusive sponsors of the Gridiron State of the Union and the DMR Red Zone. And now back to more action with the Gridiron State of the Union.
Welcome back to Gridiron State of the Union. Time now for our Coach's Corner segment. I'm joined by Coach David Johnson of the Cuthbertson Cavaliers. And, Coach, your team is on a 5-game win streak, a great win last week against Anson. How do you feel about the way this team is really shaping up as the home stretch comes in with the final 2 games?
Yeah, we had a process as we went through the season, and we had some new pieces, as everyone knows, added into the equation. And early on, we were, we won a couple games, lost a couple. We were, struggling at some points. We had to find our way. And I think over the last, we got through that bye week. Over the last few weeks, we've really found our identity. We've had great senior leadership from our captains, from all our seniors. We got 23 of them that we're going to honor on Friday night for senior night, and they've done a great job. And, we've been able to patch together a couple wins here and get a streak going, and got some good things going now.
Of course, you guys set out this year to have the best season Cuthbertson has ever had, and so far you're on pace to do that, certainly. What is it going to take, though? Sun Valley comes in a little wounded, but these guys are road warriors, so that has your attention, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, you can't forget the fact that they were the preseason favorite. And they were the preseason favorite for a reason. They won the conference last year. They've got some phenomenal players. The Funderburk kid or Funderburk kids are doing a great job for him. And, he's got the ability to take it to the house any play. So, it's a big test for us. It's another week in the Southern Carolina Conference with great competition, and we have to be prepared and really bear down and do what we do on Friday night in order to get a win.
You guys, I know, have watched the tape. What is it going to take to bear down and get that victory against Sun Valley?
It's going to take all 3 phases of the game. If you watch them on film, you realize that they can score on any phase of the game. If you make a mistake in the kicking game, it's a touchdown. You make a mistake on defense, it's a touchdown. You make a mistake on offense, they get the ball back, it's a touchdown. They are explosive. They do a very good job. Coach Baltham has them coached up very well. They're doing a great job. So, it's going to take, a full 4-quarter game focused in every single play, ready to go, and really play physical. They're a very physical team, as you've seen on film, and they're well coached, and we just have to be ready to go on Friday night.
Thanks a lot, Coach David Johnson, our Coach's Corner guest this week.
Time for Extra Points.
In our Extra Points tonight, hats off to Coach Brad Hoover and the Marvin Ridge Mavericks, who have changed their attitude and their season by getting 2 wins in a row. And finally, this week is a big one for Parkwood. Although the Rebels are essentially out of the hunt for a conference title, they could play spoiler and rough edge on Friday night if they were to knock off the Mount Pleasant Tigers, keeping a Cabarrus County team from winning the Rocky River Conference outright for the first time ever. We wish all of the teams in our county luck as they take the field on Friday night. And with that, we are all out of time. Special thanks to DMR Reconstruction for sponsoring our show each and every week. And thank you for listening. We have examined the state of our union, and I can report it is good. Good night, everybody.